Today on Making It in Manufacturing Spotlight Series, I'm joined by Sam Brookes, Principal Consultant and Committee Member of ISPE UK. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi Tom, nice to meet you.
So to start with, can you just please give a bit of an explanation of your role within the GAMP?
So I've been involved in GAMP since its very early days. Originally I was involved in a supplier forum focused on promoting the ideas of GAMP into the supplier community. But then when GAMP became a part of the ISPE family, we brought that together and I became a part, first of all, of the European Steering Committee. And then I've had various roles, including leading the IS stream in the annual global meeting. And now I'm a part of the UK committee.
Perfect. Can you give our listeners a quick overview, one or two quick sentences, I guess, of your career, not whole career, just key skill sets, areas of expertise, so when we go into the questions, they have some context.
Okay, sure. So trained as an engineer, originally employed as an instrument electrical engineer, just down the road from here actually. And from there I went into real-time computing, supporting process manufacturing, which became then Pharmaceuticals. And from there I've moved into IT. Most of that time, most of my career, I've been in some aspect of regulatory compliance, but in IT functions, not the quality assurance functions or other functions. So I've got a very strong IT leadership position in the way that I look at this. I've been in leadership teams for many years, including standing in as a CIO ad interim during periods of change.
So how do you feel around the topic of IT moving from a support function to a strategic capability arm of a life science business?
Massively overdue.
Yeah.
There are companies now where they're actually rebranding, to be honest. You see things like digital transformation leads and digitization or digital healthcare. For a lot of the last 20, 30 years, IT has really been, exactly as you say, an enabling function, doing huge activities like the basic transactional ERP type stuff. But the industry has been a little bit risk averse about truly adopting the transformational technologies that we have as a part of the product offering that the life sciences industry has. That is changing now. We're seeing a digitization, digital health, AI in products, and as a part of the real evolution of the industry as a whole.
So what is the key role or function of an IT compliance department, or what should it be within a business?
Okay, so IT compliance, it's very interesting. Actually, increasingly, I think the real essence of what we need to be focusing on is around the quality and reliability, integrity, if you want, of the data that is used across the whole of the IT arena and actually enables the industry. Life sciences is, after all, a knowledge industry, and that knowledge exists as electronic data.
And why is there still a fundamental disconnect between IT departments and other departments like quality or could be automation?
So what I see very often in industry is companies where there are IT departments that focus on computerized systems, boxes for want of a better expression, and they sit as a sort of basement service supporting the business in islands of automation, which really is failing to see the whole flow of data. So you get this fragmented structure of data, this fragmented understanding of data, and it also creates silos of accountability. So there's this silo of accountability about looking after the computerized systems, but then the business is not really properly involved and there's no real strong accountability for the data in the business. Too often I've seen a situation where business owners think that data is the responsibility of IT, for example.
Yeah. And with Annex 11, audit trails, data integrity becoming ever more of such a big compliance topic, what is the role of the IT compliance when it comes to defining the strategy for the business with these regulation changes? And
Okay, so I've always seen the compliance team or the compliance capability within the IT structures as actually a bridge. So we're not pure technologists in the compliance area. We need to understand the regulatory risks, the risks to human health. And that actually means we need to have a good understanding of the business processes and the consequences of those business processes from a safety, from a reliability, from a compliance point of view. So that makes that particular team an effective bridge, looking at what the IT functions are doing from the point of view of these business processes and particularly the regulated aspects of those business processes.
you mentioned early on around maybe a data problem, or the data is a quality type
Yeah.
issue from that perspective. So what is your opinion on the pharma industry having a data problem or a data architecture problem?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, what I often see, particularly in some of the sort of lower order, smaller manufacturing-based companies, is data being handled around systems. So there's no clear architecture, there's no clear overall governance, there's no clear flow of data within the organization. As I mentioned, this is a knowledge industry. It's driven around data, and we have a significant problem in many companies in that those data are not joined together. There's no architecture which really defines where's the master of the information, what is the flow of the information, who owns it, how is it governed. And without that, you can't really reliably ensure the quality and the integrity of data. And there's a particularly interesting aspect to the integrity, which is the meaning. If you've got various different systems with fragmented views of data, then you end up with different meanings to the data, which makes it really difficult to A, achieve regulatory compliance, and B, actually really use the value of the data that there is.
And is that becoming ever more challenging with the increasing amount of systems and things that
Yeah.
businesses use of PLC systems, and there's loads
Yeah,
of different stuff that
absolutely.
they're
I
having
mean,
to go.
it is inevitable that we're driving down that way of more and more automation, more and more digitization, and without a coherent architecture, without coherent governance, that stuff becomes more and more fragmented, more and more difficult. And I think there's one real important driving technology, which everyone's talking about, which is AI. And AI is massively dependent upon huge volumes of very high quality data. Without those huge volumes of very high quality data, AI is not going to achieve anything like the benefits it could.
I think a lot of companies struggle still today with data integrity, let
Yeah,
alone if you're adding in the complexities of AI
absolutely.
into that as well.
Yeah.
What is your general take on AI? Do you think it's going to be game changing within manufacturing, or do you think it's still a long way off?
Yes, it's going to be game changing. I think that's a no brainer. Quite how it changes the game, I'm not sure is clear to anyone yet.
Interesting.
Um, but I do think what it is exposing is that we in industry still have a lot of work to do in the fundamentals to properly leverage this. One thing I think, even in these relatively early days of AI, has become abundantly clear is that it's not a sort of magic panacea. You can't just throw AI at a problem and it will solve it for you. To make it actually work for you, you really have to have this solid foundation of excellent quality, excellent structured, excellently understood data.
I think that's the first challenge
Yes,
Get
absolutely.
that bit right, which a lot of
Get that
companies
bit right,
don't.
yeah.
You ain't going to be able to maximize AI in its full potential.
Yeah, and so here we are. So the champions of AI and us who have been knocking around in data compliance and regulatory compliance for some time, we're actually now finding ourselves pulling in the same direction.
Yeah. So if there's one thing leaders or companies should start doing when it comes to IT compliance,
Yep.
what advice and recommendations would you give to them?
I would say build your governance over data. Get your data governance in place. Put the structures, the accountabilities around data governance. Build clear architecture so that people know how all the data fits together. And that's a long-term roadmap thing as well. So as you evolve with the technology boxes you use, you know how it all fits in with your architecture. That then will give you the roadmap and enable all these emerging technologies.
Amazing. Sometimes quite refreshing to take a step backwards
Yeah.
and explain the journey you need to go on before you can actually have this big, beautiful, shiny
Yeah.
AI type tool
Yeah.
for things. But no, thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom and experience. Enjoy the next day and a half.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.